So Hillary Clinton made a speech about her economic platform as a presidential candidate. Now, she talked about things like income inequality and raising incomes. Now, she said, quote, "The defining economic challenge of our time is clear. We must raise incomes for hardworking Americans so they can afford a middle-class life." All right, great. Good rhetoric. I like it. Any specifics? Anything? Bueller? No? I didn't think so. As an article in Political pointed out, Clinton left out many hard specifics on tougher tax policy toward the rich and corporate America, and she offered limited pledges to crack down on big Wall Street banks while hitting her strongest notes, promising to toss rogue bankers in prison. As far as other policy prescriptions for helping the middle class, such as raising the minimum wage, she hasn't really laid out any specifics. Now, when it comes to banking, she said this: "We have to go beyond Dodd-Frank. Too many of our major financial institutions are too complex. I'll offer plans to rein in excessive risk-taking on Wall Street and ensure that stock markets work for everyday investors, not just high-speed traders." Okay, that sounds good, right? I'm on board. Let's regulate the banks. I'm on board for that, right? Now, the question that I think is on everybody's mind is that whether or not Hillary Clinton is actually on board with her own rhetoric. I'm not convinced. And The Hill actually reports why. Now, The Hill reports that just hours after Hillary Clinton vowed to crack down on Wall Street, an advisor said that she actually has no plans on going after the very complex and risky banking system. Now, Alan Blinder, who is a former Federal Reserve official that is actually now advising the Clinton campaign, told Reuters on Monday that Clinton has no plans to push for a return of, for example, Glass-Steagall. He says, quote, "You are not going to see Glass-Steagall," end quote. Now, he also added that, hey, I talked to Hillary about this. She said no Glass-Steagall. Now, what is Glass-Steagall? For those of you who aren't sure what it is, what it did is that the law separated traditional banking activity from riskier investment banking. Now, its proponents argued that if Glass-Steagall had stayed in place, the fallout from the last financial crisis would have been much less severe, right? Still would have happened, as Bill Clinton and Hillary and other economists point out. Still would have happened, but it wouldn't have been so bad. Especially when you had federally insured depositor money being used in that Wall Street casino. That ended up, of course, leading to massive bank bailouts. Because now you had to replace some of that insured money that Wall Street used for its own casinos, right? And look, maybe if the bankers wouldn't have been as incentivized to take some of these massive risks, if Glass-Steagall had been in place, instead of, if they were using their own money as opposed to other people's money, maybe they wouldn't have been as incentivized to take some of these crazy risks that they have taken. But no, of course not. What are you talking about, Lib? It was poor people. Obviously, it was poor people taking out loans for houses they couldn't afford. That's what caused the crash. Not taking massive risks on Wall Street. No, of course not. What am I talking about, right? It doesn't surprise me, actually, that she's already showing that she's super weak on Wall Street and on the banks. She's actually using the rhetoric of Elizabeth Warren while still having huge ties to Wall Street. Both her and her husband have been paid for speeches by firms like Goldman Sachs and the Carlyle Group. Goldman Sachs. Seriously. Yes, her and her husband both have ties. In fact, she used to give speeches at Goldman Sachs for about $300K per speech, on which she would say, "You guys are misunderstood. The bankers. Everybody's vilifying you. You guys are so misunderstood." Well, now, of course, when she's trying to get the Democratic nomination, she's like, we must crack down on the banks, with absolutely no specific policies put forward to actually make that happen. Interesting. Now, there's a reason that she's trying to sound like Elizabeth Warren. That's because the American people hate the big banks. They hate that we had to bail them out in 2008. Even a lot of conservatives. I thought the Tea Party was created to protest the bank bailouts. They don't talk about that much these days. I wonder why. American people overwhelmingly support breaking up the banks. A poll taken earlier this year by the Progressive Campaign Change Committee found that 58% of likely voters said that they would support breaking up big banks like Citigroup. Now, broken down by party, 71% of Democrats and 51% of Republicans, even a majority of Republicans say, yes, let's break up Citigroup. Let's break them up. They are too big to fail. And I don't want to bail them out again with my taxpayer money. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Not only that, but as I said, the American people are in favor of ending too big to fail banking. The only people not in favor are the ones, of course, who get money, who get paid by the banks. Now, I thought government was supposed to be a check on big business and big banks. Unfortunately, now, all they get are checks from big business. And Hillary Clinton is, unfortunately, no exception. So, when you hear the rhetoric, you've got to look past that. Never mind the rhetoric. Never mind the promises. Hillary Clinton is an establishment Democrat. She is very tight with Wall Street. Now, if she becomes president, she'll do some modest reforms here and there. Of course. A little bit of reform here, and you're going to call it historic. That's what they do. A little bit of change on the outside, but mostly unchanged. They'll still be able to be massively profitable, even with those little changes. Now, there's, of course, no doubt that she'll be better than a Republican on this. You can talk about Republicans. Those guys love the banks even more than the Democrats. They're wholly owned subsidiaries of the banks. And, of course, you've got bankers, when it comes to the election, they're going to be hedging their bets on both sides. That's what they do. They're going to fund both sides. So no matter what, they come out a winner. So, as I was saying, she'll still be better than a Republican because she is progressive on social issues. But when it comes to economic issues, there's disagreement. You know, she'll be for a little bit higher minimum wage. There's some good stuff, don't get me wrong. But she won't be as distinguishable on things like banking regulation and handouts to big corporations as her Republican friends. She'll be better than a Republican, but not by much. And being better, or being just a little bit better than a Republican nowadays, to me, that's just not enough. I think we can do better.